This is a Bose acoustimass Series 3. It's a great subwoofer, and there's a lot of proprietary technology in it where you can't hook it up to any normal amplifier. And I got it at the thrift store for $15. It was half off 30, which is a great deal. And it's a proprietary Bose subwoofer, so you can't just run it off of any amplifier. Like if you have one laying around at the house, you aren't able to just hook this up to any speaker system, because it's proprietary Bose. What we need to do is we need to convert it to a passive subwoofer, which basically just means it has those two speaker wire terminals. This is another subwoofer that I picked up at a thrift store. I got it for $5. It's a Sony subwoofer and it's pretty good, but this is a passive subwoofer. So on the back, you've just got these two speaker wire terminals, and all you do is put the speaker wire in there and it works. It doesn't have an amplifier built into it. The acoustimass has the amplifier built into it because this is a control unit for the whole acoustimass system. So there's plugs on the back that would fit the Bose cubes and a few other things. Now they made this pretty tricky to get into, but once you know how to get into it, it's going to be a little easier, because I don't think you'd ever guess this if you're just trying to rip the back off. Now this is a little tab that you won't see normally. Whenever you are trying to take it off, it's going to be down in the crack there. And it's actually a release that's going to let the whole back come off. With a small screwdriver, there's a little tab here, and it's almost like gear teeth, and you'll see that once we get it off. I can pry up on those teeth, I can get on them, and then it's going to wedge this up a little bit. You got to get the screwdriver like you're sitting on a gear tooth, and then it brings that up. Now we can slide this whole thing down. Depending on the model, there might be 2 screws on the bottom. Now we can just tap this down, and it comes off. Now this is the speaker plug right here, and when you unplug that, this is what connects to the 2 subwoofers that are inside of the acoustimass. There's 2. There's one on top, one on the bottom, and this is what connects to both of them. So really, if you wanted to, you could just stick speaker wire right in there, take it up to your amplifier or your control unit, and it'll play sound just with these 2 pins. Now you don't have to remove the back if you're just trying to turn this into a passive subwoofer, but I'll take it off so you can take a look at the speakers. Just remove all the screws around the perimeter. Right there's the 2 speakers and our speaker wire connection. Now we've also got a buzz on the front side of this subwoofer, and it's just from the glue deteriorating, and it's not quite as tight of a fit, so whenever you bring the bass up, it starts to vibrate, and you can hear a buzz along with the bass, and it's pretty obvious and it doesn't sound very good. So we're going to take the front off, and it's just glued on. It's a little bit of work to get it off. You need to pry it off, but we're going to re-glue that. Now with 2 screwdrivers, I'm just going to start to work this off and pull the front out, and you're going to try to be careful not to mess up the edge of the cabinet, but it's going to be easy to do, so just take your time. That's pretty interesting on the inside. Now that we got the front off, you can see like different connections, like the small tube goes to the front part of the cabinet where the front of the subwoofers are, and this larger tube right here connects to the back of the cabinet where the rear of the subwoofers are, and it connects those two, and there's a lot of foam in there as well. We'll start to work off all this glue. The old glue is on there really good, so with a nice sharp chisel, you just work it off, go around the edge. There's a lot of yellowing on this plastic from UV light, and just with a very light grit sandpaper sponge, we can clean that up a whole lot. It's a lot whiter on this side than you can tell, and I've been sanding over here. Some of the yellowing goes pretty deep, but what it's doing also is cleaning up a lot of the scuff marks, like on this piece here. This side we cleaned up, and there was a lot of scuff marks. It used to look like this side where you have lots of dirt, lots of scuff marks, and with some really light grit sandpaper, that took care of all those. With it all cleaned up, I'm going to put on a coat of matte clear coat. If you did want to remove the amp from this plastic backing, it's really easy. There's a few screws around the perimeter, and then the whole amplifier circuit lifts up off. Now things like the transformer, which are right here, aren't connected to the whole plastic assembly, and they're pretty heavy. This is definitely all put together with some pretty nice components. Real lightly with a file, I'm going to cut a little bit of a chamfer on the corners to remove where we dented and chipped the Formica a little bit when we were prying the face off. Now this looks real nice cleaned up. The face fits right on. We got all the glue cleaned off, and it looks really nice. We're going to use a rubber and cove-based glue to glue this together because we want the glue, whenever it cures, to still be a little bit rubbery. Something like epoxy would probably work, but you don't want it to be hard. Like the glue that's on here before, it hardened up, but it's got a little bit of malleability and pliability to it where it still moves around, which really helps with the acoustics so everything can still move. And I'll just apply it on there nice and smooth. And I'll put the glue on both sides as well. Now we'll press it into place. Alright, we'll put a rag on it and a weight, and we'll let this dry overnight. Now we've got everything reassembled, I've got it hooked up, and everything looks really good, but it also sounds really good. It has a really low bass to it. There's a whole lot less of a rattle. Whenever you bring the sound up quite a lot and you bring the bass up a whole lot, you do still hear some rattle. I don't think that it's from this faceplate. It might be somewhere internal, maybe the speakers, somewhere there's still a little bit of rattle, but realistically you don't hear it that much whenever you're at a normal volume that you'd be playing music at. I'm really happy with this, especially for the price we got, and it's a great passive subwoofer.